Let's go. Yes. Welcome. How are you guys? It has been 3 weeks, which was long enough for myself and Interracial Mark to come together with Red Shirt Day. So we're gangbanging today. That's what we're doing. Welcome. I've missed you guys. I really mean this. I was just telling Mark that my life is so shallow that some of the things I enjoy really are just running and doing my podcast, and I've been doing neither of each one, so you should feel bad for me. Mark, everything good?
Yeah,
Mark's losing weight,
good.
By the way.
I just finished my first year at Fullerton College,
Boom.
so now I'm all excited.
Boom.
I have like a couple weeks before I got to go back to class. So
You got any chick news or anything like that?
You know what? We're just playing the field right now.
Okay.
Keeping it moving. Keeping it moving.
We will live vicariously through young, interracial, good-looking Mark. For the old dudes out there, we want to be him just for like a day.
I'm the reporter in the fields. Come back with the press
He's
report.
willing to take one for the team, too. I appreciate that. Got my favorite shirt on, Semper Mexico. People always walk to me and go, "Are you Mexican?" I go, "No, why you got the shirt?" It's a great shirt.
It is a nice shirt.
It's a great shirt, and it's always people are like, "I can't wear a Mexican shirt just because I like it." It's out fucking.
Is there a problem with that, man?
Yes. Apparently there's not, because we have 4,700 subscribers.
Yep.
That's not bad.
Keeping it moving.
It's not bad. We're rolling. It's good. Couple things I want to talk about. First of all, I apologize for the distance between, as I've told you before, Zach and I have a marijuana case, and we have been writing briefs. I say we. I've been writing briefs, and I'm appearing in court, and it's been crazy. But we're going to win, and we're going to come back, and we're going to have a big party, and we'll look at all Mark's Facebook pics and make fun of his chicks. That's what we'll do. But that is where I've been. But I think we're back on track now, at least for a little while. So here you go. By the way, have you heard that silence? That stunning silence. That's the sound of Deshaun Watson getting ready to pay blackmail money to settle these crazy cases that have been brought by him. And, we got on this topic 3-4 weeks ago. And as you know, I'm a former lawyer. I was a lawyer because I thought it mattered. I thought that we could change the world. You cannot change the world. I just hate to discourage you. But when I saw this and I heard the allegations and heard the complaints, it was just appalling. And what is happening now is exactly as I said. I told you that none of these cases were going to go to trial. He was going to pay nothing on them. I think what has happened, none are going to go to trial. They are working on trying to settle this case. And it's important to understand that, it's one reason we do this podcast is I think at some point we have to do the right thing. At some point you have to say, I'm not going to do that because it's wrong. And in Deshaun Watson's case, I applauded the guy when he first started. He said, "I'm not going to pay you $35,000 because you make some frivolous claim." What has happened now is that it's just destroying him. I mean, he's just getting killed in the press. He's getting killed in the NFL. And I think what they've done is come to the conclusion, maybe we can get this done. The other part of that is, and why, and again, I'm not being critical of him, it's his life, and there's an extraordinary amount on the line. But what is clear to me, and it probably makes sense, is he's going to settle all 20 of these cases for $200,000 or $300,000, maybe $10,000 a case, maybe $15,000. It's called nuisance value. Now, the problem with that is there's been so much damage that's been done. Nuisance value left a little while ago, but I understand what he's doing. That does not in any way, shape, or form mean that he was wrong. I mean, again, and I've told you, if there was any thought that this guy had molested anybody, I'd be making fun of him. I'd be hammering him. This is the reason this is such a problem is that there was no factual basis for it. There was nothing that you would look at and say, yeah, that really causes me concerns. And based upon that, Deshaun Watson, I think, did the right thing, and he tried to stand up for himself. But, the power of the media, the power of just being under pressure, the power of, man, just I can't imagine how the guy feels. I mean, he is just literally getting crushed. He can't talk to the press. He can't go to court. He can't he can't depose these women yet. And, apparently he needs to move on with his life, and that's fine. But it is a warning. It is a warning because if this is what happens, if you allow facts to be created, if you allow, false premises to exist, they have a way of taking on a life of their own. And one of the things in the shows, and I keep wanting to say this over and over again, is, man, we as regular people are just under assault. Just under assault. Everything is set against us. And if we don't fight, if we don't find a way to say, no, we expect to be treated fairly at some level, crazy shit like this happens. It just does. And just to put this into context, it is the stunning nature of these that I keep going back to this one allegation, and that is Deshaun Watson's accuser saying that Deshaun Watson is alleged to have ejaculated onto her. That's the claim, is he ejaculated onto her, and she's the victim. And this is outrageous, and Deshaun Watson is a bad person. He's a sexual assault person. Understand, people, this is one of these things, and I just say this to you guys. If someone's going to accuse you of something, don't you have a right to say, well, prove it? And even if not prove it, you have a right to say, well, can we apply just an objective, fairly reasonable, factual criteria to these allegations? Think about it. If Deshaun Watson, this is one of the lead women against him, who says he ejaculated onto her, and we talked about this a little before, but how did he ejaculate onto you? Are you saying that Deshaun Watson is using his ejaculate as a lethal weapon? Did you just walk? Were you walking down the street and Deshaun Watson pulled out his penis and ejaculated on you? No. What happened was she was giving Deshaun Watson a hand job, and he ejaculated on her. That's the truth. Excuse me. That's the truth. I mean, that is the truth. And what's happened here is because some very powerful people got together and said, we're going to punish Deshaun Watson, and we'll get into that more. But because they got together and said, we're going to punish Deshaun Watson, suddenly women who make claims such as he ejaculated onto me have credibility. It's excuse me. It's so bizarre and it's so dangerous that then again, this will be our last time dealing with it, but I keep saying this to you. Think about if this were you. Think about this as if your son, your brother, or someone, and a woman that they had sex with a year ago can come back and say he ejaculated onto me without context. I mean, yes, if you're laying in bed and Deshaun Watson breaks in your house and ejaculates onto you, that's a serious issue. But if you're being paid $500 to jack Deshaun Watson off, that's not a serious issue if he ejaculates on you. That's just workplace injury, I guess. But it is so messed up, and it's messed up in many ways. But that's why this bothers me so much. It's regular people who are getting screwed on this, and by Deshaun Watson being forced to settle this, it just doesn't end well. And this Busby guy, the attorney who gets these 21 women and says, come forward, you're going to make a bunch of money, is now losing his clients because they are understanding that what Busby told him wasn't true. And that is that they could take these salacious claims and be paid for them, and they're just not going to, or at least they're not going to be paid very much. But the damage has been done. Deshaun Watson's been trashed, and there's an uglier legacy attached to it, as far as I'm concerned, and that is these sports pundits who make their living because of athletes who the first opportunity they get, they turn their backs on the athletes or they start parroting what the owners say. And the one I'm talking about most is Stephen A. Smith. Today, Stephen A. Smith, for the last year, I think has been great talking about how crazy it is that you could be a Caucasian college coach with a losing record and get hired as an NFL head coach, and African American position coaches, assistant head coaches can't. And he has a good point. But then you get Stephen A. Smith, who was on air today, and I printed this off because it was just offensive. Here's what Stephen A. Smith says about Deshaun Watson. Quote, "Where there's smoke, there's fire. You got 22 women accusing you of similar heinous acts. There's no question that it's something that needs to be investigated." First of all, these aren't even acts. I mean, again, this is what's so distorted and wrong and irresponsible about Stephen A. Smith and people like him is heinous acts. First of all, you don't even know. There's not been a deposition, which is you can ask a person under oath what they think. There's not been interrogatories, which are written questions. There's not been a hearing. There hasn't been the witnesses haven't been interviewed, or alleged victims have not been interviewed. Think about this: that these women, their story is so specious and so unbelievable. None of them have sat down for an actual interview where the interviewer can ask them, searing questions like, are you a full-time massage therapist? Have you had sex with clients? Why did you not go to the police? These accusers, they've never given a single fact in a statement. One lady gets on TV and cries and says, literally, I'm going to a psychiatrist because I have PTSD because he ejaculated on me. And again, I keep going back to this premise. He could not ejaculate on you if you weren't by him and he's naked. I mean, it's you were jacking him off. You knew that he was erect. You knew all of these things. It's like a tire mechanic saying, I got tire dust on my hands, or a painter saying, I got paint on me. These women have never given a statement to anybody other than their lawyer, who then takes them and, cuts and pastes the allegations. But Stephen A. Smith, who is so concerned about African-American head coaches, gets out and goes on national news and says that these are heinous acts. They are not acts. They're alleged, they're alleged somethings, alleged acts at best, but heinous? Heinous is raping. Heinous is stealing. Heinous is beating. Heinous is, shooting a man while his hands are in the air. But Stephen A. Smith takes issue with that. When athletes say, police violence is wrong, Stephen A. Smith takes issue with that. But here he is attacking Deshaun Watson and calling for an investigation into these heinous acts. It's the premise is absurd. I mean, it's if what Stephen A. Smith is saying is true or accurate, if his approach is true, and that is, if enough people allege it, it must be true. Well, doesn't that directly undermine Stephen A. Smith's argument relative to African American coaches? Well, if 90% of NFL owners don't hire African American coaches, then they must not be qualified, right? I mean, that's the answer, right, Stephen A. Smith? Because if that's what's being said, that's the standard. The standard isn't fact. The standard isn't proof. The standard is a bunch of people say this, then apparently African-American coaches aren't qualified to coach. It's circular logic, and it's dangerous, and it's just lazy. It also just, it kind of proves, my brother has this great line. He says, brainwashing works. And that premise is, and I say this all the time, and it's just that, African Americans and the African American community are so disadvantaged because African Americans as a whole have stopped believing in themselves. It is amazing. It's amazing how many African Americans don't hire African American lawyers, don't hire African American accountants, don't hire African American consultants. And that is so damaging because you don't have the residual economic impacts of multiple hirings. And so when you have someone like Stephen A. Smith going out and trashing an African American quarterback who's really, there's been nothing to ever suggest he's not a great guy. When you have Stephen A. Smith going on national TV and saying he has engaged in heinous acts, it's just dangerous. It's dangerous. Stephen A. Smith is educated. He's powerful. And people listen to him. And now what people take away from this is, well, Stephen A. Smith says that these these acts are heinous. And it's wrong. It's wrong, and it's dangerous, and it's not believable with respect to the people making the allegations. And Stephen A. Smith's parroting this language is disturbing. If it continues to happen, I mean, say you apply the same thing to police violence. If police violence keeps continually and disproportionately impacting African Americans under Stephen A. Smith's logic, that means that maybe African Americans deserved it. I mean, that type of circular logic it's wrong. It's wrong. And what he's done, that type of logic, it rewards, because the only thing that's happened in the Deshaun Watson case of significance is that the Houston Police Department has announced an investigation of Deshaun Watson. So Stephen A. Smith's logic or circular logic has done nothing other than create a police investigation to an African American male based upon just multiple allegations, which Stephen A. Smith now considers to be heinous acts. That's what happens when you have people who are willing to run their mouth and to parrot statements about certain issues when they don't know. Heinous acts? There's nothing heinous about it. What is heinous is what Stephen A. Smith did. And it's wrong. It's wrong. The NFL also announced that they were going to do an investigation. I read this and it just was mind-boggling. It's like an investigation into what? Into a guy getting massages? Getting a massage is not illegal. It's not. It's not illegal. It's not immoral. This guy is not married. It's not. It's not illegal. It's not illegal to have sex with your massage therapist. It isn't. It isn't. It's not illegal to have sex with your massage therapist who you pay for the massage. It's not illegal. And because Stephen A. Smith and the NFL and their duplicitous double standard want to act like they're moral, now he's going to be investigated because a woman says he ejaculated on me. I mean, how did he ejaculate on you? Again, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And it's back to this premise of, so you can say or do anything, and if you're in the NFL, and unfortunately, and if you're of color, you're going to be treated differently. I always go back to Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, when a woman runs out of the bathroom and says he raped me, goes straight to a cop. Ben Roethlisberger raped me in the bathroom. Nothing happened. And that was the second allegation. NFL didn't investigate him. They didn't suspend him. But that's what's happened now. Now the NFL is going to investigate Deshaun Watson because he's being jacked off by a group of women who get paid to jack people off. What's next? Are we going to be investigating for having sex with a groupie, for having sex with a stripper, for having sex with some woman you just met? I mean, think about this. This gigantic double standard is absurd. NFL players have lots and lots of sex. And what we're now doing, at least as it relates to Deshaun Watson, is, well, if you have sex with this category of woman, then we're going to investigate you. So are you going to investigate NFL players having sex with strippers next? Because if you go to any NFL event after, there's plenty of strippers there and there's plenty of sex going on, and I'm assuming they're not going to be investigated. It is a gigantic double standard, and someone like Stephen A. Smith, someone like the sports media should point that out. But instead, they say that that Deshaun Watson has engaged in heinous acts, i.e., having sex with massage therapists. It's crazy, and we've talked about this repeatedly, about this double standard. There is no investigation of Andy Reid, whose son just destroyed a 4-year-old club member's life. No investigation at all. No investigation of Brett Reid, his son, who was an NFL coach at the time. He destroyed this woman's life and her family's life. No investigation into that. No one's being punished. They're talking about Deshaun Watson being suspended for multiple games. Andy Reid doesn't get suspended for allowing his drug addict, drunk son to get in a car, leave the Chiefs facility, and almost kill a kid. No suspension for Andy Reid for that. It's not like he didn't know. It's not like he did not know his son was a drug addict and a drunk. It's not like Andy Reid did not know his drug addict, drunk son was drunk at practice and left. Nothing. Brett Reid, who just, again, pled guilty or has been charged with DWI, no investigation into him. None. No one's saying a word. Stephen A. Smith, where are you at on that? Where are you at on that? Maybe, why don't you do this? If Deshaun Watson is engaged, if you're equating as ejaculating onto someone who's apparently rubbing your penis so that you ejaculate, if you're equating that to a heinous act, what should we call Brett Reid being so drunk he passes out and almost kills a 4-year-old girl 2 blocks from Chief Stadium? What are we going to call that? And that was his third driving-related offense. The first one was with a gun, and the other one was just drugs and drug paraphernalia. Come on. Nothing wrong with that. It's crazy. It's crazy. And this guy's life is being turned over and thrown in the ground, and no one's saying shit. Not Stephen A. Smith, and it's wrong. But again, and this is the guy who we're going to talk about this whole year, is DeMaurice Smith, the NFL Players Association's attorney, and he is utterly incompetent. This is why people like Stephen A. Smith, this is why the NFL gets away with hiring college coaches who literally had losing records as head coaches. It's because of someone like DeMaurice Smith, who is the worst representative for the NFL ever. He's not said a word. How are you going to investigate Deshaun Watson? You just assume he's guilty. Guilty of what? Guilty of what? Because 20 women say something which, by the way, they aren't even saying. Their lawyer's saying it in cut and paste pieces. DeMaurice Smith does nothing about that. DeMaurice Smith does nothing about the owner simply just adding a 17th game. Sure, here you go. Here's a 17th game. But DeMaurice Smith lets it go because guess what? The players get to smoke dope now. They were smoking dope anyway. And secondly, it's legal in 27 states. But that's what happens. That's what passes as representation for the NFL. And it's what happens as representation for groups of athletes who just somehow end up with these horrific representatives. This DeMaurice Smith guy is a joke. And the problem is that his lack of integrity or competence or character has resulted in Deshaun Watson being treated like he's being treated as if he's a rapist. He's not. There's not an allegation of it. There doesn't need to be. And by the way, here's the greatest double standard, and I'll say it again, not that I want to see it, although I kind of do. There's video of Robert Kraft having sex with trafficked Asians. Now so you have a Caucasian man having sex with Asian women who are being trafficked. There's video. No investigation of that. No investigation of maybe the owner of the team should not be showing up for this. And give him credit, he's saving money. It was for happy hour. He came in for happy hour. There's video of him having sex with a trafficked woman working in a massage place. NFL did no investigation. They didn't suspend Robert Kraft. DeMaurice Smith didn't, and Stephen A. Smith didn't say this is a heinous act. A heinous act is a young Asian woman being trafficked from China, or from Canada too. the percentages of women working in Asian massage places who are trafficked is like 92%. That's not heinous, though, right, Stephen A. Smith? That's not right. That's not heinous. That's just okay. Anyway, that's the last time we're going to do on Deshaun Watson. Is that all right?
Tie a bow on it, moving forward.
But don't ejaculate. What's the moral of the story? Don't ejaculate on somebody.
Apparently.
It's not even funny, but it's just crazy, dude. I mean, it's like they're talking about suspending this dude, and like, for what?
Yeah, and it bothers me when I look at it, and people look at it kind of like, all right, the media made him into a worse character than he was from the allegations, and is now getting punished for who he was made to be by other people.
And that's a great point.
Like, he hasn't gone to court yet.
Yeah, and again, I'm telling you, they're not going to court.
Yeah.
But you're right about the media. Again, now, instead of him being this great, and by the way, this has always been the owner, Bob McNair of the Houston Texans, and Busby. They run in the same circles. Again, I'm not getting into politics. They're both real big Trump people. This has always been Bob McNair going to Busby and saying, do something. That's all this has always been about, and it's taken on a life of its own. And Stephen A. Smith and people like that have accepted what Bob McNair, and by the way, Stephen A. Smith, Deshaun Watson, the reason he asked to be traded was he wanted an African-American coach or general manager. And they launched this on him. So all again, Stephen A. Smith is this horrible person because prior to this, all he wanted to do was have more representation in the ownership office and the management office. And now he's just running the ground because he's this horrible person. And as interracial brother Mark just points out, based upon stuff that the media just made up.
Yeah, and I think you make an excellent point about Robert Kraft because, like you said, it's one of those things where it's like with prostitution and massages and stuff like that, it's one of those things where it's in like the odd gray area where it's like a lot of the people that participate in it are people that make laws and are very powerful people, so you really can't do much about it. But it's funny to see how quiet people were about the Robert Kraft thing because it was the money that was involved.
Sure.
So you don't talk about Robert Kraft.
Right. And that really is it.
The money's involved. You might lose your job.
Right.
Like those fools at ESPN, you can't touch that. But
it's amazing.
Deshaun Watson, you can just hammer on.
And by the way, that's
get out what you've built up on other people.
That's a really good point about ESPN. And this Robert Kraft thing it's just amazing to me. Mm-hmm. And even today, even now, no one's saying, wait a minute. And this is why DeMaurice Smith, if he wasn't just such a bitch. He's just
you were holding you like,
yeah, I mean, I can't. He's just a bitch. And it's like, here, I mean, all you have to say, be an 8-year-old again. Well, if I'm this, then you're that. Because you're on video paying an Asian woman for sex in an Asian brothel where people are literally trafficked. And
no one says set up by the federal government.
Right. You got
it wasn't just allegations. Like the government came and set you up.
It's like, is that you? That's you. I see why you don't want to brag about that. But it's really a good point is no one is saying that. That's how just fundamentally flawed the NFL Players Association is. No one's saying, if you're going to investigate this, then we get to investigate mistresses. I mean, it's literally the NFL. Then if you're going to investigate this, then let's investigate Robert Kraft. I mean, he has like a 30-year-old girlfriend, which I love. I give you credit for. Is that okay? Is that wrong? It's this double standard that just applies, and it's fucked up.
Yeah, and I think especially like we were talking about with ESPN, it's tough for them because, I'm sure you've noticed as well within sports journalism, places have focused less on like schooled journalists, and now they're just like, well, let's just get a bunch of players in there.
Right.
Which this is the situation where players need to step in and say, hey,
but
you're treating him way different than you would treat anybody else.
But
like
also,
if a writer was in this situation, it would just be like, oh, well, he's a normal guy.
I think it's the difference because players they are not educated in the background of journalism. Yeah. In journalism, you have to present both sides. In journalism, you have to say, well, there's this and then there's that. Mm-hmm. By getting players who are less journalistic, things like this happen. But but Stephen A. Smith is a real journalist. That's the other part here is why is he not saying, hey, what about Robert Kraft? Mm-hmm. But I go back to the players. What about the players? Why aren't you saying, wait a minute, You can't hold him to this standard when Robert Kraft is on video having sex with trafficked women. Mm-hmm. No investigation, no suspension.
Yeah.
Brett Reed, again, this guy is a drug addict.
Yeah.
No investigation. It's just, but man, it's why shit. You know, I was reading. I'm obsessed with artificial intelligence now, and AI just says in the next 20 years, 40% of all jobs are going to be gone. 40%. And when you start thinking about how that impacts average people's lives, it's going to be extraordinary. And when you have stories like this, where the rich and powerful get treated one way, and regular people, in this case, Deshaun Watson, gets treated a different. What does that mean about the future moving forward? Mm-hmm. We have to find a way to say, man, we're not going to be treated this way.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that, like, I think that we often forget that athletes are employees of a business. He is being treated and scrutinized by his employer,
right.
And he's being strung out and all this type of stuff. Like, if you were suspended for something someone said you did, but no one in like HR could prove
right.
it. But like with an internal investigation, this wouldn't happen. Like same thing we see with the police all the time. Like we talked about last week with the woman who got punched in the face by that cop. Boom, investigation happens. Wow, this is crazy. Yep, he did it. Okay, cool. Suspended.
Right.
Gets back on the force in 6 months, whatever the case may be. Boom, good to go. Like they don't do that in the NFL. Right. It's just like let's just wait.
Or especially if it's like with an owner. Because again, in the owner, that's my point about there is no dispute that Robert Kraft had sex with a woman being trafficked. There's no dispute about that. No. And there's no dispute the NFL did nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's one of those times where it's like, okay, and like we're just cool with this, right? Like, okay. Like I see the temperature.
And it is literally that. It's just we're good. Yeah, we're good. But this is the problem with the NFL Players Association. You have to say you can't do that. You have to say, by the way, I find it strange that Busby and McNair, who are running the same social circles, are pushing this story right when Deshaun Watson wanted to leave.
Yeah.
On a related point, this is our Mulatto update. This goes back to like this is like our third episode. And one thing I'm just, again, it's in club members, I love you, and it's important, but it's also important that you have to call things, we have to call balls and strikes. And Mulatto, who was a multicultural singer, who, by the way, is hugely attractive. I did not know that. But she was being attacked by the media because she used the name Mulatto. And it was a group of the media saying that is offensive and it's sexism and it's colorism. And 3 months ago, I was like, it's not. She can call herself what she wants. She's entitled to do it. And it's just the media attacking multicultural women. And now, lo and behold, she gets trashed on so much, she has now changed her name to the Big Lotto. Woo! And what's sad is that, again, I feel bad for her because when I watched her interview, she was great. She's like, I'm multicultural. I'm proud of who I am. And then she's not because she doesn't want to be attacked. And I guess that's fine. It's just fucked up. And forcing someone to change their ethnic identity or to criticize their ethnic identity, I mean, that's heinous.
Like we said when we first talked about it, I find it hilarious. Because it's like when guys will, instead of saying the whole N-word, they'll just say like N-I-G. Yeah. And it's just like, nah, it's cool though. Like, that doesn't change anything. Right, we all know what you're saying. Right. It's just kind of like a wink and a nod. Right.
Well, what's funny about her is and again, I applauded her before because I thought she was great. But this thing now is it's like, but it's what you're saying. It's just, you haven't really changed anything other than allow people to intimidate you based on who you are.
Yeah.
But she is hot, so give her credit for that, right? Hey. So I bet she's worried about, she's like, man, I hope some like almost 50-year-old interracial guy with a shitty podcast thinks I'm hot. That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm working for.
So what else is going on? Anything else? Is that it? We're back?
We're back.
What's the timing on this?
We're probably at about like 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
We went too long. We'll be back. This is a Mark Dennis production. In association with the Laugh Bureau. They're kind of hot right now on hemperors.com, hemperorscomedy.com.
Check them out. Great dudes.
It's great. It is good. We will be back way sooner than this. I apologize. I care about you guys. I love you. And Mark's going to have a girlfriend at some point in time.
I don't know about all those restrictions.
He says it's a heinous act. All right.
Relationships are heinous.
You guys be careful. Thank you. Bye. That pisses me off.